Okay, we're going to play with Netcat and Iptables. We're going to start off in the Windows system by listening on port 3333 with Netcat, and we're going to throw out a command prompt, Windows Access. And now it's listening. We want to create a firewall rule. In this case, we have one specifically for the service. We could also make one for the port. And we're going to go over to our backtrack system, and we're going to connect on port 333. We should get Windows Access. Immediately we have Windows Access. We type ipconfig, improve that, and then we'll exit, and we're going to make some Iptables rules. First we should flush our rules, take a look, make sure that we're aware of what our default policy is, whether it's accept or drop. We'll make a web rule and port 555, both TCP, and then we'll drop explicitly at the bottom. And that's what our input chain should look like right there. On the Windows system, we're actually going to connect to port 80, web port. All I'm going to do is type get, and bingo, we've got the web page coming right back at us with the HTML code as well. Now back on the backtrack machine, I'm going to actually add two more rules so that we can keep state. We're going to keep state on the input chain as well as keeping state on the output chain with the state established. Just like that. And then we'll do it again on the output. So we're going to actually send a file through port 555. So I'll get my Netcat listener ready for port 555. And we're going to send that information to a new file text. And it's waiting. On the Windows system, we'll do Netcat. Actually, let's first make a file. All it says is hello there, and then we connect on port 555, and we're using a redirector in the opposite direction to pull my file. And so we've sent the file, and hopefully we have it now on the backtrack system. It did get a connection. We'll Control-C and look at what's inside my new file. And there's the message. We've sent the file across on port 555. Now if we wanted the Windows user to have access to the Linux machine, to have a Linux shell, one way to do it is again to listen for a connection. We can take port 3333 again, and we're just going to wait for the Linux user to send us a shell. And this is how we do it. Remember the -E, and bin shell or bash. Push enter. Let's go back to our Windows system and see what happened. So after waiting a second on the Windows system, the connection is made from the remote user who sends us a shell, and here's a listing of some files. Then I typed ifconfig, and it brought me the Linux network interface. Okay, one other thing that Netcat can do for us is it can be a port scanner. So in this case, if you look, I've got Netcat-V for verbose, giving us extra information. And then -Z is to turn it into a port scanner. There's the IP address, and in this case I'm scanning port 555. So on the backtrack machine, we need to have Netcat listening on port 555 for this to result in port open, which it does in this case. And then we can actually scan port 80 because we know the web server is open. This could take a second, and we have success with port 80. So in this case, for the port scanner to actually give us a result of open, we have to remember that the service must be running and the firewall must make that must be a rule for this particular service, and we already created rules for both of these ports. So now we could flush the rules, to look at default policies. So let's add a default policy of drop for the outbound chain, or the output chain. -p output drop. And if we look now, there is the output chain, so packets headed outside our interface, and the policy is drop here. And remember, we already created an established rule earlier on for the output. So we have it here. We also have one for input. And we are allowing port 80 and port 555. So in this case, users should be able to access the web server from, say, the Windows machine, but at the same time, I, on this backtrack machine, should not be able to make external connections. The TCP handshake should fail, because all I'm allowing outbound is established connections.